The Patriots are once again making a bunch of head-scratching moves. A shocking report earlier this week from ESPN said that Bill Belichick, with Josh McDaniels now having gone to Vegas, could actually call the offensive plays for the Patriots. This comes from Jeremy Fowler, who is one of ESPN's most connected reporters around the league. Here's what he said. The intrigue deepens on the New England Patriots' approach to offense without a true play caller. There's sort of an open belief league-wide that Coach Bill Belichick could call the plays, or at the very least have more involvement in the offense. He's involved in everything, to be sure, but he could really dig in here. There's also no major rush, so he doesn't need to force play calling duties in early March. 4 offensive coaches must be replaced after former offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels took a Patriots crew with him to Las Vegas. I think everyone is sort of trying to figure out what in the world the Patriots are doing with their coaching staff. And apparently there's enough people thinking this could actually happen. Even though it's a wild idea, like I don't know how many people in the history of the NFL have once called offensive and defensive plays in their career. At the very least, it would be very entertaining to witness how Belichick would call plays offensively. Honestly, though, with how much he's praised McDaniels in the past, I get the feeling he would call offensive plays similarly to him. But I would say the most normal thing that could happen here would be Belichick being heavily involved in the game planning of the offense, similar to how he was back in 2009 when the Patriots lost Josh McDaniels the first time, and Bill O'Brien was thrust into the play calling circle. The ideal scenario is tight ends coach Nick Caley taking on that Bill O'Brien role as a beginner play caller and eventually making his way toward more and more of a game planner, so Belichick can then focus on other areas of the team as he sees fit. Another scenario would be Joe Judge taking over play calling duties, as he's had experience on the offensive side of the ball before. But even though he has more experience than Caley, that one almost seems like a tougher pill to swallow after the Giants' infamous quarterback sneak play calling we saw last year. And when you account for Judge being the Patriots wide receivers coach in 2019, when the Patriots receivers were one of the worst in the league at gaining separation. Either way, it still seems like a missed opportunity to slot Judge back in at his old special teams coordinator position, especially when you consider how much the Patriots struggled to play up to expectations in that part of the game last year. I don't think there's much of a chance of Matt Patricia taking on offensive play calling duties, but he is apparently going to be coaching the Patriots O-line, even with his defensive background. One of my problems with all this is the previously reported dysfunction on the Patriots defense, mainly toward the end of the year when Belichick wasn't sort of guiding both Steve Belichick and Gerard Mayo. Bill was very upfront about McDaniels controlling almost everything to do with the offense, which gave him the ability to work on other parts of the team. So now with his focus shifting to the offense, should we start to get a little worried about the defense? Especially when Steve Belichick has yet to prove himself as a deserving play caller. That's just another factor that gets me real worried about this coaching staff. That's why Patriots fans should hope that Caley can slide in and do a fantastic job with more priorities on offense. Obviously, McDaniels and O'Brien were groomed through the system and ended up becoming quality coaches. So I think the hope should be that Caley can be next in line. Judge, or even more so Patricia, doesn't get me all that excited over the future of Mac Jones, who obviously showed some great promise as a rookie under McDaniels. By the way, I gotta mention that Caley was born in Canton, Ohio, so if the universe is giving us signs over the future of the Patriots offense, then Caley is undoubtedly the way to go. Still, Fowler's report about the speculation around the Patriots coaching staff is backed up by Patriots beat reporter Phil Perry, who said people around the league are flabbergasted at how the staff is coming together. He said some people are giving Belichick the benefit of the doubt, but putting Judge and Patricia on offense has raised some eyebrows. I think Patriots fans are largely frustrated with the lack of answers when they have such a fragile situation with a second-year quarterback who not only lost his offensive coordinator, but also his quarterback coach. It almost seems like the balance of the franchise hinges on these decisions. And these decisions are head-scratch worthy, at least from the outside looking in. I'd say bringing in an outside proven candidate for the job would have been the best thing. Bill O'Brien couldn't be jarred loose from Alabama, and the Patriots seemingly ignored their former wide receivers coach Chad O'Shea, who called plays for Miami in 2019. Now it seems they'll be headed into 2022 without a real offensive or defensive coordinator. It seemed that style got messy last year on defense with Mayo and Steve Belichick sharing different priorities. For this year, if it's Bill on offense or Kaylee or Judge, no matter what, the microscope will be zoomed in on how Mac Jones plays, with so many different moving parts around him. It's something Tom Brady was able to play through consistently at an MVP level. The Patriots would lose coordinators and have their staff ransacked, and at times the team lacked a legitimate number one weapon like Jones is facing now, which brings me to this story from Albert Breer. Just go ahead and take a listen.
And I think like you even feel it more at the combine on the personnel side where they don't have Ziegler anymore, where Macro, who was an area scout 2.5 years ago, is leading the personnel department. How about this, guys? When they, teams hold meetings with agents, like that's, pretty standard at the combine. So, agents will line up meetings with as many teams as they possibly can, and the teams will meet with as many as agents as they can. And the Patriots had representing them a young area scout, and I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. It's Marshall Awim. He's a pro scout for the team. He was hired 4 years ago. And he's sort of been a lower level scout. And he was the guy who was meeting with agents about their free agents. And so that struck people as weird. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and I had like a prominent agent tell me this story, which blew me away. He said the Patriots are still operating as if it's 5 or 6 years ago, where they can go in with premium free agents and say to them, we're not going to meet your price, but if your market craters, come back to us and maybe we can do a 1-year deal. And this agent said to me, it's like, I don't know what they're talking about. It's like, yeah, maybe I'd send my guy there when Tom Brady was there to restore his stock, but why would I send him there now?
One of the underrated talking points of this Patriots offseason was the loss of de facto GM Dave Ziegler, also to the Raiders. This after previously losing Nick Caserio. So yes, in the personnel department, they're lacking big time as well. But going back to what Breer said, to send an area scout to speak with agents is downright disrespectful to those agents and the players they're representing. It just feels like a move to handcuff yourself in free agency. Meanwhile, apparently Steve Belichick and Gerard Mayo went scouting at Boston College last weekend over the NFL Combine. Now, you can argue all you want about how the Combine's effectiveness in scouting is overrated, but if just about every team in the NFL is sending their coaches and especially their higher-ups in the front office to evaluate and meet with the top prospects as well as agents, then obviously it has more effectiveness than going to BC's spring practice. I can even understand in doing some scouting work at home, but what's the point in wasting time at BC when all these top prospects are performing and meeting with the team leaders of your rivals? That Patriots area scout better be the second coming of Ozzie Newsome or something, because the more I hear about this Patriots offseason, the more I shake my head.